look up at the top of the building where the bell towers are, lots of times you'll see the windows go dark, like a figure or someone's walking across in front of the window.
Get you. It's gonna get you. You know, no light's gonna save you, no gun, no knife, no fist, nothing. It's gonna get you.
5 steps in, I mean, you feel swallowed.
You hear all kinds of noises, you see all kinds of things. I've seen lights in the building when there's no electricity.
The guy actually did kill himself, and he would not tell anybody what he saw.
It is a monster of a building.
Shadows moving around, and that's one of the things that we can't explain.
What does Waverly Hills mean to you when you first hear it?
Creepy.
Scary.
A long time ago, when they decided to build this hospital up here, they were looking for a place that was way out from the city. And one time this was out in the middle of nowhere. And they found this place on top of this hill that had a breeze all the time, and so that's where they decided to build a hospital. And they built a small wooden one, and in no time at all they were overloaded. So they got the money from the state, and they built the hospital that I'm sitting in now, and it was completed in 1926. It had a completion price of $1.1 million back in 1926. So this was a very large expenditure at that time because tuberculosis, white plague, was really wreaking havoc on the public. A lot of people were dying.
I was pretty ill. First they thought I had pneumonia, and then they got to do an examination and said, well, no, it's too late for that. You're a very sick girl, so this will be the way to go.
The back of the building has got a curvature to it that faces to the southwest, and that's the way that the general breeze blows all the time year round. The building was designed this way with the curvature to the back so it would capture this wind and try to create a breeze that would go through the building all the time year round. The hospital has 4 floors and a partial 5th floor. And the first floor was more or less set up with the x-rays and the administration and the gift shops, the library, stuff like that. But when you got to the 2nd and 3rd floor, that was for the general population, where they stuck as many people in here as they could fit in. And then when you got to the 4th floor, that was for the people who had the money. If you go to the 4th floor, you'll notice every room up there has its own private bathroom, where on the 2nd and 3rd floor, you had a community bathroom, 3 or 4 different places down the hall.
There were people that came from all over the world to come here because it's supposed to be elite, top-of-the-line hospital as far as tuberculosis. There were a lot of local that weren't able to come and stay here because they had other people from other states here, and so they stopped that. You had to be a resident of Jefferson County to be a patient in Waverly.
This would be the way, right? And I had just turned 17 years old, so that was a big blow.
This place served as a tuberculosis hospital from October 17th of 1926 up until 1961. After that point, it was closed down for approximately 2 years and remodeled, and it reopened as Woodhaven Geriatrics Center, which is basically a nursing home. And it remained that until 1980 when it closed its doors for good.
I did think about it. They used to be goals out on the porch as we called it, on the street in the area. And it was really quiet at night, and I thought, we are kind of helpless there, lying here, but it never entered my mind to ever be afraid.
Waverly's got 5 floors to it. Everyone from the first floor all the way up to the 5th. Tiny cats also a lot of spots where we can find. This building can't hurt you, so please stay with me.
So you don't think Waverly Hills is haunted?
foot, it's got EMF meter, electromagnetic field meter. The sound it makes, right now it's going off.
Electromagnetic field meter. This reads natural electromagnetic fields that are all around us constantly, man-made or natural.
If the spirit and ghost is here, that's what this thing reacts to. So what we usually get here is a lot of EVP. Temperature here one night. First thing I tell people is you can't smoke. It's out of respect for what the building was. So what we got was right here. As you hear me talking on this tape, you hear a cigarette lighter clink. You hear somebody light their cigarette. You hear your lighter clink back, and it shuts. And right behind that, you hear, what the hell?
I'm standing that way looking down the hall at the shadows. And I was standing there and it was right by the window there. And it sounded like something was behind me to the left. There's something that said, no, no, oh, go, or something like that on the nature. And it was like really hoarse, but really
Out of breath? Couldn't breathe? Having a hard time breathing?
like it was forced.
You've got things where people are screaming. You've got things where it says, TV is no good, or TV is no fun. You've got one that says, Dad, Mother, please help me, someone save me. It's a lot of these vulnerable silent cries. We don't know why, other than, a lot of people died here, over 63,000.
There was a schoolhouse, open-air schoolhouse that was opened in 1915 to specifically take care of children that had tuberculosis. Death certificates that have children that died of tuberculosis. There used to be stories of a ghost of a little boy that bounced a ball around the halls.
The patients, you know that children too? You were in the hospital, did your family take care of your daughter?
Yes, she did. They did. My mother did. And it was very hard on her, but she took the best care she could. I don't know what I would have left her.
Now, right through here, like I said, sometimes they go right there and come into the hall. There was a big auditorium, second floor. And every Wednesday night they had picture shows or different entertainment.
Once in a while they had a movie, probably older than the Hills, but when you're in there, you enjoy anything.
Out in that front lawn, they bring us Santa Claus, reindeer, and a sled. You'd unload that sled. That's when I was a child, they'd unload it. And that Santa Claus take them reindeers around us and sleigh ride.
I just want to say something about the good thing about Waverly Hills. Because if people enjoyed themselves to some degree, there was a lot of fun things went on there. I could tell you some stories that were real interesting. One of the doctors there once had a horse. He liked to get the patients out and let them ride the horse if he could. He said, might as well let them enjoy themselves because they couldn't have as long to enjoy life as some other people did anyway.
Like a fan. Like a fan.
Tuberculosis Sanatorium. First floor parliament protected. 63,000 men.
This is actually what we call the death clinic. This is where they brought the bodies down. They want people to see. We know for a fact over 60,000 people did die, especially the first year alone, and almost 20,000 people died. They bring them in with these freezing chambers, but when they realize real soon, real quickly, they just didn't have enough time or space to get all the bodies.
All right, how about when they were taking the bodies to the elevator, the back, the elevator break down, and all the bodies would be stacked up in the elevator?
They had specials to do that. They had a refrigerator and they put them in that. That damn freezer part is certain temperature to keep them cheap.
I was telling you that the first year the wave was so heavy, so thick, they couldn't get the bodies out of there fast enough. There's a maintenance room and they'll make sure the water.
Morgue there, I don't remember going into the morgue where the bodies, so they could be picked up or autopsied or whatever. That was right in the back elevator. Of all the deaths in the hospital, a certain percentage of them have to be autopsied. That's a requirement.
They're taking all the bodies down this hallway, down to what's called the draining room.
There was supposed to be a room called the draining. There was supposed to be a room where they hung people and drained their blood out to the cross and morgue.
The bleeding room is the room on the far end of the kitchen wing, the door just before the beginning of what's known as the body chute.
This is the draining room.
Draining room where you hang the bodies upside down and cut them like this.
There may be something that happened that not everybody knew about. I don't know. I can't comment on. I don't know about it.
They would hang the bodies up on these poles and basically slid them from the sternum to the draw, and all the way down to drain the bodies, get them out, go to the body chute on the death cloth.
As far as the draining the body, I've talked to people that were involved in embalming procedures during the time that Waverly Hills was open. In fact, if anything, they would be afraid of letting any infected biohazards loose, much less just putting it in a drain, sending it down the hill to the sewage system.
Area was pure or the sewer. And they made a special septic tank at some time. Harry claimed it wasn't dangerous when they had it made. They tell me that it hadn't been used so long. The old mansion down here was gone.
Education of the people and Suzanne the Saint is the first and greatest aid in the prevention of tuberculosis.
Weren't you worried about catching the disease itself? It was very contagious. So how did you
Well,
deal with that?
that was another reason I quit. I was concerned about carrying disease outside of Waverly Hill. That was a big concern of them. Because they was afraid after going to all this business of building this place, and then the neighbors get up a petition and close them down. They done everything they could do.
The community wanted anyone with tuberculosis to be up here so that they would be quarantined. But I'm sure that everybody that came through these doors had hopes of getting better and walking out one day.
It was an epidemic state, and I guess just knowing how many people lost their lives and how many loved ones had to suffer along with them. And, you know, there was no cure for TB at the time.
you know how he developed?
Yeah, it's my mother. I cared for her for a year or more till she died.
Anyhow, I think Daddy got the job when he lived here in Earl. He was a vegetable and fruit inspector or something. And he lived with me at that time. I feel like that's when I got his jobs. Especially since tuberculosis is just right out there.
You will get X-ray and the sputum test. Because they would put them away, the doctor them away, because they didn't know what to do with the disease.
And there was a cure.
At that point, they were coming out with antibiotics such as streptomycin and pills that could cure TB, where people could actually just stay home as outpatients.
INH, PAS, para-aminosalicylic acid.
There you go.
INH, isonicotonic, hydrazine. There's INH.
That's a word. I'm impressed.
Well, yeah, I worked with that in the clinic where we treated patients daily with these, had them on drugs. They came back regularly, be refilled.
So people with TB in their skin, of course, they get sunlight and such for treatment, or even artificial UV light.
Well, I'd have had some medicine back when we started out. I've been in pretty good shape.
Oh, have you looked at the IV bottle with the glass tube still in it? Yeah, they're animal based. Yeah. Animal based. Ghost hunters come up here and they'll sit up here for hours trying to capture ghosts with their EMF meters and all their electronic equipment. And the most of the stuff that's been captured has usually been on the 3rd or 4th floor, right in the hallway.
Looking for shadows that move, on shadow people.
On the 4th floor. It's notorious for shadow people.
So what do you think you exactly saw? What can you describe it?
It was a shadow figure right beside me.
Shadow person?
Yes, it was right beside me. It was like right here beside me.
And so if you hear people that have been in the building, they'll talk about the shadow people, where you can actually see them from the outside of the building, inside the windows. But sometimes when you're in the building, you can, especially at nighttime, you can sit and look down the hall and you'll actually see a shadow move around in front of you. And you can't explain where it came from.
Trespassers. Walk right in front of us, we lighted up with flashlights and there's nobody there.
We were watching the shadow people that you were seeing for the first time I was there, just as support. And one said, "Don't look to your left." There's one standing right next to you, and you could just feel coldness all down the left side of my body, which is extremely cold, and there was no way I was looking to the left side of my body.
We're gonna try to find this room and clean up.
And you can go there at any night, and there's a breaking light, and there's shadows that look like they move towards you.
You see how it's like that? Okay? So if you were to walk past this door, you'll see a shadow in the hallway. You start seeing one. You just focus and you start seeing another and another, and it gets faster and faster and it gets closer to you. Shadows of patients walking everywhere. If you look down the hallways, you see like the windows or the doorways. You just see shadows crossing the door. Hundreds of shadows. It gets faster and faster and faster.
Again, tours, we like constantly the shadow people move throughout the hall from the doorways, kind of like keep peeking around, looking at you. It creeps people out. I swear to God that I seen this figure turn sideways and I could see arms and legs moving down the road and it was moving actually towards to where I was standing. So I got real spooked and I thought, I'm not alone. There's somebody, trying to sneak up here and trying to sneak back down.
Just as soon as your eyes looked up, you could see actual movement, and it just got busier and busier, and you could just see shadows passing each other, as if there was people walking back and forth.
There's no signs of anybody walking. I got on the radio and told everybody I just chased a shadow person down the road for the first time.
I've seen shadows that walk outside the building, shine light on them, they're not there.
We found out like experiments with lasers, these things, it's not cutting right through them. So if you have some type of substance.
Then you'll stick a laser light and put it across the shadow and it will stop in the shadow. Because ghosts have substance.
Oh my God!
Right here now.
Yep, chasing ghosts. Looking on the second floor, you can actually see shadows standing there. It looks like people.
I can't deal with it. Can't be in the building by myself. Can't walk around by myself. It's just you get that sick feeling in your body when you're by yourself that it's something you don't want to bear.
The only people that ever got injured up here is Keith and Jay through the Louisville Ghost Hunters. They've had drywall thrown at them, some bricks thrown at them.
Hear things whizzing through the air, duck, for the simple fact that it's concrete. Waverly is made out of concrete. Something that the walls are made out of concrete. Yeah, I've been on the receiving end of it a few times. It does not feel good.
And the spiritual world is smart and knows to pick up on that and will not tolerate any kind of negativity crossing their path.
It's actually really John, what we do to feeding on people, we feed people, right? Yeah. And you were here in 1937.
37.
37.
37.
Lived here for 3 years. You were on a trip. Was it scary back then? Did the place seem scary at all?
Second floor identical painting windows. Cold spots detected. Temperatures 40 and 50 degrees and dropping.
Oddly enough, last year I remember that one. I actually smelled food. I'm not going to say one thing or another, but I remember I was standing in this second floor hallway, probably halfway down, almost to the point of being in the west wing, and I literally could identify certain smells. gravy, bacon, eggs.
About 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, we can smell breakfast cooking in the kitchen.
You actually smell them cooking breakfast, lunch, dinner.
Most of the time it's pancakes or something like that, something bakery. And I mean, it's a distinct smell to where you can smell there's nothing.
Each wing of Waverly on each floor has a small dining area where somebody could get out of bed, but they couldn't be out of bed very long. They could go to the little dining room in their wing and eat a meal there. Later, when they got to a higher level of recovery and they needed to get exercise, they would go to the main cafeteria and eat in that dining room, which was actually separated by folding doors and had 2 separate dining rooms, one huge one and then a smaller one that, from a lot of pictures that I've seen, seems to be where the children, for the most part, ate.
They weren't allowed to go out to the public. And the reason being is because they could contaminate and spread the disease more than what it was.
Not my family, so they across the room, about 40 feet away. Played up. Like, I had an episode, it hurt my feelings, and I understand that. Someone asked me, "Look, are you gonna be friends with Dolores after she gets out of here?" He said, "I certainly will." She said, "I love her." She said, it's not her fault she was sick. Well, some people really didn't understand.
And the people that work in the building would have to go hang out the women's views.
Like I told you, sometimes we felt like second class. And we didn't really tell people that we came up here. I wasn't ashamed of it, but I just didn't tell them.
Either I go where there's peace, or else I get better. Hope is all we have. Hope for a cure.
What was your favorite place in the whole sanatorium? What was your favorite place that you used to like to go? Well, you did like to go.
It wasn't for me.
Yeah.
I personally didn't like any part of this. That's the reason I quit.
Was it depressing? It's sad?
Yeah. I was busy with most of the time. See, when you work here, a little bit different. I didn't have an executive job. I had a labor job, you know.
Yeah, you see more that way.
Yeah, you
But
see.
you don't say it.
Yeah.
See?
Yeah, that's all.
You could hear noises up on other floors, and there was times where you could hear screams and moans, and you know they weren't coming from your patient. But I tried to get up on one of the floors one time and I almost got fired.
Worst job I ever had in my life was we had a big tray, a big rack, and we had trays on there, and you had to take that, roll up all that truck up there, then take off the tray and take 2 of them in, and they sleep, you wake them up, turn them over, set the tray in front of them. One day that I saw them quit. I wouldn't do that job. That's the worst job in the world.
Now, your life is regulated pretty well.
Yeah, there's a lot of ghost stories about the place. A lot of rumors of it being being haunted, but more importantly, it's like the place is haunting. For some reason, the history is just wanting to be told.
I was walking back, we're filming a sequence where a little girl flashback in the 1930s, and I was walking to the set. Down the long hallway, I saw this blur, if I was going to do it justice and describe it, it would be holographic, a little girl in a dress, and then right through the wall. I didn't know what to think. I saw it, I knew I saw it. One of the security guards came up to me and looked at me and said, "You saw her, didn't you?" And I went, "How do you know?" I said, "I saw Mary." I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, yeah, we heard her giggling this morning." They said that nonchalant, like it happens every day. And then it took me about 45 minutes to get composure, to realize, okay, accept this, you've seen one now, and that's it, and continue shooting the movie. And then, and then another spooky part is I said to the wonderful prop master, James, she ran in there, and she goes, "Well, you know why she ran in there, don't you?" I said, "No, why?" This is covered up. And on the table was this broken statue of a little girl holding a doll.
What he said was a girl that wasn't on hormones. She kept saying she had no eyes.
Investigation lead. Suspected haunt. EVP. Orbs and shining people. Contacted.
And there was legends of a little girl on the third floor.
She's really good when she's high.
Security up here. Made her way up to this bathroom right over here. Got to the crawl space. Came out with 3 old town pictures. The 3 pictures was of 3 boys sitting on a rock somewhere. Took a picture of her in the car. The third picture was a school picture of a little girl. Not the way a lot of people describe Mary as they see her running through the 3rd floor here in the solarium. And on the bottom in pencil it wrote, "Love Mary Lee." Whether Mary Lee really exists or not, we don't know. We've got photos of things that might be a little girl, might be a little boy, we don't know. So until we can finally get some absolute proof, this is where hopefully Mary stays and we'll get some more proof.
Damn ball that everybody keeps talking about. Like this little girl bouncing a little ball through the hallway, man. I hear that shit, dude. I hear it like tapping on that damn floor.
What he said was a girl that wasn't on hormones. She kept saying she had no eyes. It really freaked him out, and he said he would never come back up to his phone.
Never again. That's the only points in my life I've ever heard a little girl laughing and placing her ball. When I saw that website, dude, and that little girl in there, I was like, yeah, I believe that one. Now I believe that for damn sure.
Looks like it's a ball.
I have seen a ball in the building. I've had it roll too. Don't know where it came from. It just come rolling down the hallway when no one else was in the building. I don't follow it. I just, could leave it alone.
First year I did a tour here. This is
picture the floor with about a foot and a half full of garbage, dust, and dirt, 20 years of text. I had a man having to walk backwards and talking. On the third floor where we had the glow stick down there, I tripped over something and landed on my butt. When I got up to see what it was a little leather ball. So we took that ball, it was the last trip of mine, we took it right up here on the fourth floor. Took it over here to the operating room. We dropped it off, fixed the tour, got done, came back up, the ball was gone. We found it down on the second floor.
If you hear ghosts or not. And once you're up here a while, you don't really hear the ghost. You just accept it.
The third floor is where the little girl is supposed to have been seen several times. There's a little girl who will come and ask you to play with her.
She was probably about 6 or 7. It was like she was wrapped around the windowsill, trying to figure out what was going on.
I got up at 2 o'clock in the morning and I heard it sound like a small child, a little girl. I said, hello. And he looked at me and I looked at him and he said, did you hear that? I said, what'd you hear? He said, I heard a little girl say hello. I said, that's what I heard. And he both was like, let's get out of here.
And then I had one patient that she would always be talking to somebody. And I'd ask her who she was talking to. She told me she was talking to this little girl. She told me that this little girl told her that she was going to be coming and taking her. And I just figured, well, her being an older person, that meant she was just seeing things. Three days after she told me that this little girl came, she died.
A lot of cases where we've done tours in the building, people that don't know each other mention the same thing. Little short, little characters that just tend to appear and disappear.
On the third floor, I don't remember. I was always on the fourth floor.
And the fourth floor,
Where they done the operation. And all of the precipitate.
Investigation lead. Fourth floor. Emergency active. Waverly corporations. No human life. High level of suffering detected.
The upper class people with the money who could afford the exploratory surgeries, they went to the fourth floor.
Waverly Hills used to, back then, do a lot of
this hospital always had a waiting list to get in. It never was had any empty beds in it at all. And from what we understand, people came as far as 500 miles away to come to this facility because it was known for its cutting-edge technology in their exploratory surgery.
What I had was called pneumothorax. They put this air in your lung and push it down to keep it, to help it mend.
New ways of resting the lung have been developed. This patient is getting pneumothorax treatment. Air is let into the chest cavity, and that rests the lung so that it can heal. When the diseased lung is fully healed, it is allowed to expand again.
They were cutting. They held my hands and got over to the street and you can yell, don't you dare move because it's right by my heart. And so, I remember it was so hot in there. We didn't have air conditioning alone.
What the operation consisted of is they would come in and they would cut open your rib cage, actually remove a few of your ribs. They would take and collapse the lung that was in the worst shape. And then they would keep you calm as possible and have you breathe off of your good lung, hoping that your other lung, while they had it collapsed, would start to regenerate and get into better shape. And then they'd come back later and pump it back up and see it.
In this instance, go in and resect a portion of the rib cage. And that just allowed the whole chest wall to cave in.
Five rib, about that much out of each rib, five of flaps for long. Makes you walk sideways because you're out of balance, you know. You're always trying to favor that side, but I don't push anymore. But the first had it done, I always walking down here sideways. Trying to get away from it, I guess. Pain. Very good pain.
Called this thing the white death, the white plague, for the simple fact that it couldn't create enough red blood cells in your oxygen.
Only weighed 700 pounds, and I was pretty sick.
What this on TV does, it attacks the red blood cells in your lungs. So what they did was people that were going to be dying, they knew they were going to be dying, they didn't want to leave these ghastly white dead corpses. They didn't want their family to remember all that. So they take them into this room right here. These are the first tanning salons in America.
They had one little big room up there they called a lamp room. And this was a room that only had the ultraviolet of this type of lamp.
They would bring the patients in here before they would get the visitors to come in, and they would put them under the sun lamp the day before so they could try to get some color back into their skin.
Right, well they did use heat lamps on patients. I've seen pictures of it, where they would have their clothing pushed back and would have a heat lamp on their back, you know, on their lungs, because they thought that the heat would help.
They thought that fresh air, even cold fresh air, is better for you. So they call this the open air hospital.
I've been told in the wintertime they would even have snow on the foot of the beds.
The patients would be out here even in the middle of the winter with snow on the ground, snow like coming through the screens a little bit, and they would have them all bundled up, getting their fresh air.
I spent the winter of 1939 out on the porch where there were 4 other people and me, 5 of us, out on an open porch in the wintertime. The only thing we had between us and the weather was a tarpaulin that we could draw and pull it across on metal cable.
Down that porch is cold. You know, blanket.
They didn't know what to do. You know, just trying to help people do whatever they thought would help.
They used to put sandbags on their chest. So I was lying and they also what that
And a lot of things we did then that thought was effective was just doing the wrong thing.
really investigate and thoroughly look for evidence of any kind of afterlife activities in a place like this that's so notorious for the operations and the illness and the plague.
I went up to the 4th floor one night, and I'm not quite sure what time it was, you know, the wee hours of the night, and I went up with a group of people, and it was my first time up there, and I was seeing shadows and big white things.
Yeah.
We all went up one night on the 4th floor, which is supposed to be the most haunted, and we all turned off our flashlights. It was late at night, and we just stood there, and we saw like this weird thing of light
Coming towards us.
just like kind of like bouncing around, and we all saw the same thing, and there was no reflection or anything, just like this weird ball of light.
Lands on a documentary filmmaker.
This is an orb that I photographed on Waverly Hills rooftop in June of 2002. Notice the size of it, notice the concentric rings, notice the eyeball in the middle. I call it the eye orb, but I changed from the eye orb to my companion orb, and I will show you why. In the next photograph, you will see the same orb, but in my apartment at home. See the rings, see the circle? This orb appeared after I said, "Mary Lee, if you would like to be in the picture in my apartment, and I take your photograph, thank you." I took the photograph, and this orb appeared.
We were up on the 2nd floor, and we were clearing the building after one night that haunted house had been open, and we were clearing from the top down. We were to the 2nd floor. It was my first time in the building. All the guards that were in there said stand against the walls, which we did. And at that time there was a light that just went across the whole room, and it scared everybody to death.
It's laser guided. See, 72. And a while ago we were getting ready to down to the 60s. And that's what they're used for. You find a cold spot and try to document it with this. What we've got is, we've got an air pressure change. It's almost time to tell them we've got cool air coming up on us. The way breezes and things work, if there was going to be a breeze in here, it'd be going down. It's things like the wind just sucks it out. Plus the temperature drop almost 10 degrees, but it's only on one side. So over here, 63 degrees. Sit right out here, 62 degrees. 10-degree difference. And it's bouncing back and forth. Right here now. It's moving, the cold spots are moving.
Middle of the night we see rooms start to glow that we can't explain. We see shadows move around. And these are all things that we can't find a reason for them happening.
Something really cool. So here. The doors are locked up. Look what you got. What do you got? Footprints. See it? Now that is a barefoot footprint.
A crazy house, and the other end up to the top.
Investigation data. 5th floor. Photographs of babies visible. Suggested suicidal tendencies.
On the 5th floor, that was known as the sunrooms up there. And my dad described the roof up there.
That was for people involved. You had to have somebody with you go up there. They were knocked in the head, some of them.
The 5th floor wasn't very big. It was divided into 2 parts. Some of the patients that had maybe some mental problems or bothered some of the other patients through the day, they would take their bed and they would roll them over to the elevator and take them up to the 5th floor and stick them out on one side of the sunroom to keep them away from the general population if they were bothering them too much.
Just like you're outside. I really like it. Nature bound anyhow. The place on the 5th floor, where they had just a little more freedom there. Just a great big solarium.
The 5th floor. Who knows the stories about the 5th floor?
When the first shower started, there was these scratch marks in the tile. You know, and I'm thinking, now how in the hell did this happen?
I know, but I go to that story.
Well, 502 has gotten a lot of publicity. We had Incursion, 502, the local band. According to the rumors, they got the 502 in their name from that room. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me yet. Like I've discussed before, an incursion is a hostile takeover. Why would anyone want to do a hostile takeover in a bathroom of an abandoned hospital?
Well, it's local teenagers, and they got into a big thing.
There was rumors going around it. I know they hung their stuff out there.
The whole reason behind it is I took the numbers off the door of 502, and whatever spirit lurks in there didn't appreciate it very much. Every place I took the numbers, I brought them home. I got kicked out of my house. I brought them to our practice spot. We got kicked out of there. So finally, I gave them our guitar code. And now they're on the front of the car.
You know, when we went up there on the 10th floor, we were only up there for like 15 minutes, and it affected me for two full days.
Back in the 40s, during TV days, a nurse so depressed over the conditions of people dying of tuberculosis took her own life by hanging herself.
Yeah, I've heard that she hung herself while she was pregnant.
No, I know.
And every woman that walks into that room,
feels
if they're pregnant, it's automatically
and the EMF meter goes crazy, right?
Yeah, it's completely sick. Like they have to walk out of the room.
This room reacts to women who've been up here that were pregnant. The first time we came up here, Tina Madden was also with us. We pulled out an EMF meter, and it was mid-July. It was hot, muggy, but all of a sudden it went from 86 degrees to 98 degrees in 3 seconds. EMF meter went off crazy, just melted the solder right on the back of it.
And I do know for a fact that there was a nurse that supposedly committed suicide on the fifth floor.
Now, I can't say that it happened. Now, we had a patient up there that sliced his wrist.
What we do know for a fact, 1926, first head nurse hung herself. That's death record and was ruled suicide. What we do know is that she was basically 27 years old, unmarried, and pregnant. So that's probably why she did the same stuff. She hung herself from this, they usually did a light fixture in here. She sat here and hung. So it was 12-hour shifts at that time. So basically she hung for 12 hours while the patient from this side sat here watching.
Infamous 502, where unfortunately a nurse discovered that she was pregnant out of wedlock.
She made a mistake.
She performed self-surgery on herself and unfortunately aborted the illegitimate child, and then
showed us where they how to take it.
We did find information from the coroner that I believe it was in 1932 that a stillborn baby was found on Pages Lane.
That was the first rumor that I heard. The second version was that she possibly jumped out of one of the windows.
Woodhaven, and I worked there for a year. And it was a place where people came to die.
They had a TB hospital, and then after the TB hospital, they had a nursing home. Call it the geriatric center, is what they call it. And the nursing home, of course, you had old folks here that passed away from either neglect or abuse or something like that of nature.
No people's hospital. We mistreated everybody. There's pee everywhere. There's like cockroaches everywhere.
When I took care of them, it was like they'd be laying in feces, they'd be laying in a wet bed. Nobody cared about them. There'd be times I'd sit out in the parking lot and just cry because I didn't want to come in because I knew what it was going to be like when I was in here. It was nothing but pure sadness. That's it.
People falling off the things because they won't watch, or the wheelchairs falling off the loading docks.
Man, we have to run off that loading dock right there.
This place wasn't kept real well, and patients weren't taken care of very well.
They tell you to do something, you better do it, and you was gone.
They had locks on their doors. And there was once where there was another nurse where there was a lady sitting in a chair, and of course they power into the chair and stuff. And she looked like she was going to fall out of the chair, so I went over there to help her. And the nurse told me just leave her alone, and she was going to die anyway.
crazy. They were naked in cells. They were electrocuted. You know, the shock therapy.
They did a lot of different experiments and stuff like that. The state finally closed it down in 82. So by that point, it was just pandemonium up here. This is shock therapy. This is the first place we ever broke an EMF. The whole time I've been doing this for over 25 years, I've never had it happen. There was so much electromagnetic activity in this room, it frightened me. And as you kind of see from this room, it's not very big. The patient's over there watching through a big window. Doctors can stand here and look at this light board here. They were telling me exactly how much juice was actually going through the board.
Isn't standing right in front of the death tunnel?
Straight right up to the window. Walking out through the death tunnel. Also known as the locally body chute. Let's go. Everybody follow me. Let's go on down to the death tunnel.
Death tunnel was a 500-foot tunnel dug underground to, originally we feel it probably was there for supplies to be brought up.
It was actually steam heated, and it was used at one point in time to bring supplies up. It was also used for employees to walk up from the bottom of the hill to get up here during the winter months when it was extremely cold and the snow was deep.
They had two rails just like railroad tracks. And then they got steps. And there's about 4 or 5 steps. And then there's a flap, say, maybe 8 feet. And you walk up these steps and you get on the flap, and then you walk up another 8 steps, and then there's another flap, and that's all the way up that hill.
But it did thirdly have the purpose of transporting the bodies of deceased TB patients.
There was so many people dying in the hospital that they started putting the bodies down the tunnel so that other people wouldn't see them.
At the time, there was a certain point during the tuberculosis epidemic that it was like 3 people an hour were dying, and so in order to keep the patients from being demoralized at their own, kind of impending death, they would cart the bodies out through the first floor to this death tunnel, and it was this conveyor belt system that went 500 feet down towards the railroad tracks, and down at the bottom the hearses or the trains would pick up the bodies and take them home to their families.
This is a railroad track.
Small, like railroad, real small, that would be hoisted up the incline of the hill and bring supplies up. And as people died, they also used that same cart to lower bodies down to the bottom of the hill.
And it was like a little railroad car. And they put the body on that, run down there, and then come back and get another way, all gone, they could take. And they take them out one at a time.
Back when we started actually doing tours through caves, people went through caves and started marking the walls, writing their name in, the year they were there, kind of leave a memory of it. And kind of like that, you can walk down through these halls and see pencil marks on the walls. Like for instance, there's one right there that states that person's name in 1930. There's quite a few of them out through here. They're getting kind of hard to find. The water coming in, it's eventually eroding them off and washing them off. but there's still a few. 1951, separate Franklin, 1942.
She told me that she was up here as a nurse, and she was actually here. And when she went to leave, she had to walk down the tunnel to go down to the little train station there to catch the train to come back into Louisville. And said as she was going down, they were rolling bodies down. She said she actually saw them. She actually saw the bodies go down.
That tunnel was built for that reason, and to put the morgue.
It's not a pleasant thing to think about. I agree on that tunnel. That's a sort of a bad thing to think about. But the tunnel was there for a purpose, and there's no worse than having a morgue.
They would lower them all the way down the hill inside the tunnel so nobody could see them.
Because there were people dying frequently in the 30s and 40s.
They would take them out to the railroad cars out and load them onto a railroad car, or a person could pick them up down there.
You know, they were being very respectful and trying to keep the patients that were alive, you know, kind of keep their spirits up and give them some sort of hope for survival, and yet, you know, they still had to respectfully get the remains of the patients that didn't survive to their homes.
So they didn't want people that were in his hospital literally seeing people dying every hour. So what they would do is they would sneak them out to the tunnel down to the bottom, and hearses would pick them up.
Both main roads that come up to the hospital come up on the backside of the building, which is very visible to all of the patients that would be in the area. So the doctors came up with the idea of using that same tunnel to transport bodies out of the hospital so that the patients wouldn't see hearses coming up and lower them around.
That's the reason for doing it, and I think it's plausible for it.
I don't remember anybody dying there. They told me they did.
There never was but one person ever come up to this building. And they claimed, a doctor claimed that it upset that patient. And this tunnel built right here. But they did it right in.
It's the first time I'll be entering the death tunnel. Are you scared? Philip, I've been there. I'm excited, but the doors aren't just open. I'm not really sure how it feels.
Just about everybody that came in that didn't survive went, you know, the remains went through this tunnel, and when we went in there, it was about 20 degrees cooler than it was outside, and it was nighttime, so it was very dark in there, and it was one of the spookiest places I've ever been in. You just had a different feeling when you went in there.
It's almost like you feel like there's someone behind you, like there's an enemy behind you, or there's something pulling you.
The last time we were here, we recorded, the EVP recorded that we were here and recorded in this tunnel. And what I did was, we walked down the tape recorder was in my hand on this side. And as we walked down, you could hear people breathing.
Down in the death tunnel, and we got some strange pictures. This one, I stood at the bottom of the tunnel and shot up without a flash, and there was just some light coming in from a hole in the tunnel. And I don't know if you can tell, but there's a little boy in the picture.
We made it.
we went there to shoot a movie, but we also got an amazing documentary out of it by the interviewers, the people. I mean, it's the passion of everybody. Everybody went there. I mean, the fact that we spent 14 hours in a 500-foot tunnel, I mean, you just can't. I mean, you couldn't do it anyways. And the fact that we were able to go there and do this, I mean, it'll never be done again.
I think that the initial draw of the place for most people is going to be the hauntings and the legends and such. People are naturally curious about that. But more and more, it seems like people that go up there interested in the hauntings end up getting some kind of a respect for the history of the building itself.
It is the urban legend in the Louisville area that this place is haunted. And I didn't believe that myself until I came up here and now I own the place. Now I know it's haunted.
We don't know why these things are explained by shadows also. If you don't want to laser it, the light doesn't go through it. And why are you seeing a shadow while it's coming at you, the temperature drops 30, 40 degrees?
Voices in the halls, weird lights, you know. Can't explain like a lot of things I've seen or know.
When the train come by, all these bodies from Kentucky come here, had come here.
Nurse, so depressed over the conditions, people dying of tuberculosis, took her own life by hanging instead.
He said, "You saw her, didn't you?" And I went, "How do you know?" I said, "You saw Mary." I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, yeah, we heard her giggling this morning."
All this stuff really happened in this place. It really happened. Here's a script right here. All the cool stuff with ghost stories and people breaking in and all the wild stuff, twists that went down. And I said, hey, this is still a real thing.
You know, after seeing the stuff I have seen up here, it does let me know if anybody pisses me off, I can come back and haunt the hell out of them.
How is he good?
When the train come by, all these bodies in Kentucky come here, had come here.
A lot of people died in the 60s or 70s.